Those of us who are on public platforms and who actually do speak, and our words are we every day measure what we say, but we are part of a democracy which believes in free speech. So, you know, these are issues, as I say, we've seen this movie before. This has happened over and over again, whether in Afghanistan, whether in the Netherlands. Those who go out to deliberately incite find that they play into the hands of those very extremists in that other part of the world that we don't want to incite, or rather that we don't want to validate. So those extremists out there use this stuff and whip up for their own political, religious, cultural, whatever reasons they have. So they're using it as well.
Interesting. Christiana Amanpour, thank you so much for sharing your insight. Always valuable. We appreciate it. I've been telling you that President Obama, along with Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, expected to have a joint news conference in about 10 or 15 minutes. Let's head to Washington now, to the White House, and check in with our White House correspondent, Brianna Keeler. I thought it was kind of interesting that President Obama wouldn't appear alone, but would have Secretary of State Hillary Clinton by his side.
Yeah, and obviously, as you know, she just made remarks as well, but she will be next to him. She is one of the very popular members of his cabinet, someone obviously who's very respected and well liked. And this is becoming obviously a political issue. You can't ignore that, Carol. We heard last night, or not heard, I should say, but Mitt Romney criticized President Obama and the Obama administration, and the reaction very much tying him to a statement that came out from the Cairo embassy, a statement that the White House is very much distancing itself from, and Mitt Romney taking some criticism now because of tying President Obama to that, a statement that was made before it became apparent that anyone had been killed in these incidents in Libya. So the criticism that we heard last night, it appears Mitt Romney doubling down on some of that a short time ago from the campaign trail in Jacksonville. He said that this was akin to an apology and that it was disgraceful. So we're really waiting to hear. President Obama obviously is going to condemn the violence. He did that in a paper statement earlier today. He also said that religious beliefs should not be denigrated, referring to this video that has caused so much controversy, a video that caused the violence and the protests. So we're waiting to see as well if President Obama weighs in on the political nature of this, Carol, since it's becoming an issue on the campaign trail and sort of a discussion over really who has better foreign policy credentials, as Mitt Romney criticizes his, and certainly behind the scenes, the Obama campaign is criticizing Mitt Romney's response to this.
Oh, it'll be fascinating. Brianna Keeler, thanks. Live from the White House, that statement, that initial statement that was issued by the Embassy of the United States in Cairo. I just want to read you a bit of it because this is the statement that set off Mitt Romney. Quote, the Embassy of the United States in Cairo condemns the continuing efforts by misguided individuals to hurt the religious feelings of Muslims as we condemn efforts to offend believers of all religions. That statement finishes up by saying, quote, we firmly reject the actions by those who abuse the universal right of free speech to hurt the religious beliefs of others, end quote. Now, the White House says it did not okay this statement. The Embassy of the United States put out this statement on its own. And as you heard just a few minutes ago from Mitt Romney, of course, does not approve of the statement. He came out swinging. Wolf Blitzer is here now. He joins us live from Washington. So the president is going to come out and talk about these very sensitive incidents that happened in Libya and Egypt. He can't exactly be playing politics. He's the president.
Well, this is way above politics right now. 4 Americans have been killed in a brutal, I can only call it a massacre, at the U.S. consulate in Benghazi, the second largest city in Libya. This after the United States, the NATO allies, many in the Arab world, the more moderate Arab states, worked together to get rid of Muammar Gaddafi in Libya. And now to see this kind of attack on a United States diplomatic mission in Benghazi, that's way beyond politics. Carol, this is a huge national security issue that has developed, and it only goes to underscore that in these kinds of presidential debates, when everyone is focusing in on domestic issues, the economic issues, the jobs-related issues, even domestic social issues, that a national security crisis, and this is a crisis right now, can explode. You got what's going on in Benghazi in Libya right now. You got what's going on in Cairo when the United States Embassy is attacked. American flags are burned. And it's a dangerous situation. This is one of the largest diplomatic missions that the United States has in the world. A lot of Americans serving at the U.S. Embassy in Cairo. That's where they distribute more than $1.5 billion a year in U.S. economic and military assistance, mostly military assistance to Egypt, but all that very much up in the air. And then you have some serious tensions, shall we say, developing overnight as well between Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel and the President of the United States. All of this exploding into a big political set of issues that will clearly affect the U.S. political campaign over the next at least several days. We'll see how it all unfolds. Let's hope it all quiets down. I suspect it won't, because the week after next, the United Nations General Assembly, Carol, convenes in New York, and leaders from more than 100 countries, including Ahmadinejad, is coming from Iran. They'll be all descending on New York. The president will be in New York. Mitt Romney will be in New York. Both, by the way, will be speaking at the Clinton Global Initiative, which coincides with the UN General Assembly Week in New York. So the national security and foreign policy is going to be an issue in this campaign, even when so many thought it was way down the ladder, if you will. But it's obviously emerging now with a tragic vengeance given the death of 4 Americans.
Let's go back to Mitt Romney's news conference, where he really doubled down on President Obama, calling him an apologist. Things are still tense in Libya. As far as we know, they're searching for these people who carried out that attack on the consulate building in Benghazi. I don't know, was it wise? Wolf, the president, is coming out along with the Secretary of State. Let's listen.
Yeah.
Good morning. Every day, all across the world, American diplomats and civilians work tirelessly to advance the interests and values of our nation. Often, they are away from their families. Sometimes they brave great danger. Yesterday, 4 of these extraordinary Americans were killed in an attack on our diplomatic post in Benghazi. Among those killed was our ambassador, Chris Stephens, as well as Foreign Service Officer Sean Smith. We are still notifying the families of the others who were killed. And today, the American people stand united in holding the families of the 4 Americans in our thoughts and in our prayers. The United States condemns in the strongest terms this outrageous and shocking attack. We're working with the government of Libya to secure our diplomats. I've also directed my administration to increase our security at diplomatic posts around the world. And make no mistake, we will work with the Libyan government to bring to justice the killers who attacked our people. Since our founding, the United States has been a nation that respects all faiths. We reject all efforts to denigrate the religious beliefs of others. But there is absolutely no justification to this type of senseless violence. None. The world must stand together to unequivocally reject these brutal acts. Already, many Libyans have joined us in doing so, and this attack will not break the bonds between the United States and Libya. Libyan security personnel fought back against the attackers alongside Americans. Libyans helped some of our diplomats find safety, and they carried Ambassador Stephens' body to the hospital, where we tragically learned that he had died. It's especially tragic that Chris Stephens died in Benghazi, because it is a city that he helped to save. At the height of the Libyan revolution, Chris led our diplomatic post in Benghazi. With characteristic skill, courage, and resolve, he built partnerships with Libyan revolutionaries and helped them as they planned to build a new Libya. When the Gaddafi regime came to an end, Chris was there to serve as our ambassador to the new Libya, and he worked tirelessly to support this young democracy, and I think both Secretary Clinton and I relied deeply on his knowledge of the situation on the ground there. He was a role model to all who worked with him and to the young diplomats who aspire to walk in his footsteps. Along with his colleagues, Chris died in a country that is still striving to emerge from the recent experience of war. Today, the loss of these 4 Americans is fresh, but our memories of them linger on. I have no doubt that their legacy will live on through the work that they did far from our shores and in the hearts of those who love them back home. Of course, yesterday was already a painful day for our nation as we marked the solemn memory of the 9/11 attacks. We mourned with the families who were lost on that day. I visited the graves of troops who made the ultimate sacrifice in Iraq and Afghanistan at the hallowed grounds of Arlington Cemetery and had the opportunity to say thank you and visit some of our wounded warriors at Walter Reed. And then last night we learned the news of this attack in Benghazi. As Americans, let us never, ever forget that our freedom is only sustained because there are people who are willing to fight for it, to stand up for it, and in some cases, lay down their lives for it. Our country is only as strong as the character of our people and the service of those, both civilian and military, who represent us around the globe. No acts of terror will ever shake the resolve of this great nation, alter that character, or eclipse the light of the values that we stand for. Today we mourn for more Americans who represent the very best of the United States of America. We will not waver in our commitment to see that justice is done for this terrible act, and make no mistake, justice will be done. But we also know that the lives these Americans led stand in stark contrast to those of their attackers. These 4 Americans stood up for freedom and human dignity. They should give every American great pride in the country that they served, and the hope that our flag represents to people around the globe who also yearn to live in freedom and with dignity. We grieve with their families, but let us carry on their memory, and let us continue their work of seeking a stronger America and a better world for all of our children. Thank you. May God bless the memory of those we lost, and may God bless the United States of America.
Mr. President, was this an act of war?
All right, so there, the President and the Secretary of State, they leave the Rose Garden. They're going back into the Oval Office. You see them together. We're told that the President, by the way, has just added to his schedule a visit to the State Department. I assume he will go over there to express his condolences to the career Foreign Service officers. The Ambassador, Chris Stephens, was a respected career Foreign Service officer, a veteran U.S. diplomat. A lot of people don't always appreciate the sacrifice that these career diplomats make. They serve Democratic presidents, Republican presidents, and they do a fabulous job over the years, and very often under very, very dangerous circumstances. Ambassador Chris Stephens and the information specialist Sean Smith, both of whom confirmed dead in this attack on the U.S. consulate in Benghazi, both experienced, both working very hard. And Ambassador Stephens had struggled during the uprising against Muammar Gaddafi, working with the rebels, trying to coordinate some sort of strategy. And it's an awful, awful situation, an awful tragedy that he has now been killed. Comes under the headline, "No good deed shall go unpunished." Ambassador Chris Stephens is someone who was highly, highly respected, risked his life often, and has obviously now paid with his life for what he has tried to achieve. I was struck, Carol, as we assess what's going on and we get ready for the President to add this visit to the State Department, by what he said. I don't think he said it just once, he said it twice. He said, just make no mistake, justice will be done. That says to me that the U.S. will try to find out who was responsible for this attack on the U.S. diplomatic mission in Benghazi, who were the individuals responsible, and the U.S. will go after these individuals, capture them or kill them. When he says justice will be done, that is not an idle threat. That is a direct threat to those directly involved. And if the Libyan government doesn't produce these individuals, I suspect the U.S. government will go forth and try to find out who they were and make sure that justice is served. That's one huge issue right now. The other huge issue, obviously, is what happened at the U.S. Embassy in Cairo yesterday when it was attacked and the U.S. flag was burned. It was replaced by a black flag. All of this as a result of some anger because of a YouTube video, some sort of film that portrayed the Prophet Muhammad in a less than positive way. And it's causing major political ramifications. as our viewers by now know, Mitt Romney, just a little while before the president, issued a very strong statement himself condemning these attacks, but at the same time, condemning the initial statement by the U.S. Embassy in Cairo, which was clearly a misguided statement that went after those who produced these kinds of films and didn't directly condemn those who attacked the U.S. Embassy in Cairo. So this is going to cause a lot of political uproar and a lot of back and forth between the Romney and Obama campaigns. I was also struck by the fact that both of these attacks occurred on the 11th anniversary of 9/11. Yesterday, when I spoke to Mike Rogers, the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, he made it clear that there are elements of al-Qaeda in Libya right now. In fact, in Tunisia, he pointed out as well, and it's perhaps not coincidental that these attacks on the U.S. Embassy in Cairo and the U.S. diplomatic mission, the consulate in Benghazi, did occur on 9/11. So there's a lot of tension going on in that part of the world, in North Africa and the Middle East right now, and it's going to cause a lot of heartburn for U.S. national security specialists in the hours and days ahead. Carol?
And I know you'll be talking a lot more about this on the Situation Room. Thanks, Wolf, for being with us. We appreciate it. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back with more.